It's the weekend and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Mid-November, fall. It's the height of fall. I feel like I do feel a little bit like we went from summer to winter a tiny bit. But I don't know. Mark, you going to be riding that bicycle throughout the winter? No. You sort of say a hiatus, if you will. Oh, nice. Hibernation. Very good. Hey, this is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. And we are broadcasting live from the Capital One Bank Studios on the west side of New York, of Manhattan. Yeah. That's us. If you've got a financial question, if you just like financial content, this is the program for you. Even if you don't like financial stuff, we do make it fun. You know, my goal here when we first started this back in 2011, was it the beginning of 2011? 400 shows ago, I might add. We just had our 400th show. Was that I wanted to try with Mark to help you take the mystery out of your financial life. But we also wanted to try to make sure that money wasn't scary and it wasn't boring, that it was kind of fun, that we had a sense of humor, no lectures, no finger pointing, no proselytizing. It's not my gig. Yeah, I'm not that person. I want to be like your cool cheerleading trainer, aunt, anything like that, friend, encourage you, but also tell you when you're screwing up. So that's our job. That's what we try to do. So if you'd like some help with anything that is financially on your mind, just send us an email. It's askjill@jillonmoney.com. askjill@jillonmoney.com. All right? Very good. That is what Barbara did. She is on the line from the normally cooler suburbs of New York City, Barbara. That's what they used to call it when I was growing up. You're calling from the great Westchester County, where I'm from. So welcome to the program.
Yeah, I know. I love living here. It's wonderful.
Fantastic. How do you like those taxes? Not so good.
Well, not so good. But you know what? I'm originally from Long Island, and the taxes there are not so great either.
Wait a minute. You are a transplant from Long Island? Where on Long Island?
I am. I grew up in Plainview.
Oh, way out middle of the island-ish.
Yeah.
At the edge of Nassau County. And so now you are in Westchester paying high taxes. Tell us what we can do for you.
Okay. My portfolio is being actively managed by the same financial firm for the past 6 years.
Okay.
I'm not unhappy with my current advisor, but I was introduced to another advisor by a mutual friend who now manages my sister's trust. I reached out to him for a second opinion about my portfolio. So I have two well-informed, well-intentioned advisors who differ in their opinions.
Oh, that's so interesting. Quick question. Your current advisor, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you pay?
I pay. That's a good question. A quarterly fee. His management fee, which comes out of my portfolio, actually every month, is 1.18%.
Okay, and how much money is he managing right now?
I know recently dropped it because
that's all right.
What's going on in the
Ballpark.
market. It's a total is average about $670,000.
Okay, that's not a bad fee for under $1 million. I'll tell you the truth. That's a lot of advisors in the New York metropolitan area are charging 1.5, 1 3/4 for under $1 million, and so it's not a bad management fee. So for what you have right now, okay. Now, second opinion. Did you pay a fee to have the second opinion? No, just like, hey, take a look. Let me know what you think.
Correct.
Now, you must tell us a little bit about yourself. How old are you?
71.
Okay. Married?
I am.
Okay. And how are you both either retired or where are you in life stage work-wise?
We're both retired. I recently retired at the end of August.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And financially, we are, I believe in a healthy situation.
Mm-hmm.
Both of us. We have two different portfolios. My husband has his, and I have mine.
Okay. How much? And how much does husband have?
My husband, he has several million.
Oh, I love several million. That's one of my favorite types of millions.
And
the
it's
several types.
Managed by the same.
Okay, same guy.
Same guy.
Oh, so that's why your fee is maybe lower because you're in with your husband on the several millions, right?
I don't know. You know, my fee was recently 1.3, and I did discuss it with him because the other advisor that I have, the second one, he charges 0.5, or he would charge 0.5. So
that's a big difference.
Big difference. So my current advisor lowered my fee from 1.3, which I was really not that happy about. My husband pays much less than that, to 1.18, and that's where he stays.
I got you. Why is it so separate? Is this a second marriage?
Yes, it is. We're married this month 12 years.
That's a long time. You did it again, huh? Well,
yes.
Good luck to you.
We have very, very good marriage. and we've had two separate careers, of course.
Yeah.
And my husband has two children. I don't have any children.
Mm-hmm.
So when we came together, we had our acquired wealth during, we came together in our 50s.
Uh-huh.
So I've always had my portfolio, of course, throughout my career, and my husband has had his.
That's great. But it's funny. So, all right, let's talk more about, we're going to talk more about the advisor. So husband has several millions. And so does he pay most of the bills? And of your pot of money, the $670,000, are you drawing any money from it?
I am not. No, I'm not. I'm living on my Social Security. I have a pension.
Oh, nice.
I don't need to tap. Oh, wait a minute. My RMD. That's right.
Right. Then you have to.
My RMD. So it's my income is my RMD, my Social Security, and I do have a pension for one of my jobs. So it's not that I'm drawing into my portfolio beyond that.
That's great, though.
Point. And we share our expenses.
Can't he pay more? He's got several millions. You just have $1 million.
Several.
I know. I want him to pay more. I got to let me navigate this. Mark, I'm going to pay some bills, and I got to figure out how to make this guy pay more of the bills. Stand by, Miss Barbara from Westchester County, and let me come back, and we can chat a little bit more, and then we're going to talk about the second opinion and find out exactly what the differential is, and then make a decision about whether you stick around with this advisor or not, and how we get your schnorr husband to pay up more of the bills. Well, Mark's laughing at me. Mark splits his things. Mark splits 50-50 with his girlfriend, soon-to-be wife, but there's a slight differential in the income, and you still split it 50-50. So I'm interested in that, but we're going to think about this. So Barbara, stand by while we go pay some bills, and when we return, we're going to answer this question. If you are listening and you have an opinion, should Barbara be paying her like full half of expenses? I sort of feel like it should be a slide based on how much you have. But maybe I'm wrong, and this is not a financial question. It's just an opinion question. This is a good one for a poll, Mark. This is a good Instagram poll question. I don't even know what that means. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com is our email address. Go to the website, JillOnMoney.com, and go and pre-order the book, The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money. We'll be right back.
401ks, IRAs, refinancing, she covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back with Jill on Money, and before we went to the break, we were talking to Miss Barbara from New York, who is in a great shape. Pension, Social Security, required minimum distribution. She just retired over the summer. She's got a husband who's got several $1 million. She herself has a nice portfolio at $670,000. Her advisor is charging 1.18% to manage that $670,000. And the second opinion was the differential is pretty big on the fee, just 0.5%. Barbara, what else did the second opinion reveal in terms of the strategy?
All right. Well, I have My portfolio has 3 accounts. 2 are IRAs and 1 is 100% equity. And the account that's about 100% equity is comprised of 10 mutual funds.
Okay.
The second financial advisor recommends selling all of the mutual funds and purchasing domestic ETFs primarily to improve the tax efficiency. That's one area where they differ. And in that account, that 100% equity is about $170,000 there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other difference is I have a larger account, which is an IRA,
Mm-hmm.
and that's about 54% fixed income.
Mm-hmm.
And the fixed income portion is short-term, long-term, and intermediate bonds. Mm-hmm. The second advisor suggests to sell all of the fixed income and place the money in an investment-grade 3 to 4 year ladder to reduce the risk of rising interest rates. So, I mean, a lot of this I don't really understand.
Well, you know what? Let me boil that down for you. As interest rates rise, the value of those bond mutual funds will drop. Okay?
That I understand.
That right? So what advisor 2 is saying is, what we could do is build you a bond ladder, meaning we go out and buy individual bonds or CDs. We buy those, and ladder, think of like what a ladder looks like, right? Mm-hmm. You're going up. So it's like a 1 year, a 2 year, a 5 year, a 7 year, a 10 year. And then every time one of those bonds matures, all that money plops back down and you reinvest it. Mm-hmm. And as interest rates rise, you are able to reinvest the money at lower prices, presumably. Okay. So that's, it's fine. Either way, it's probably not going to hurt you. Here's something interesting, though. In that account that's 100% equity that has 10 mutual funds, would you say there's a big cost to doing that? In other words, I presume you've owned these funds for a while. Wouldn't there be a tax hit? If you sold those 10 funds, wouldn't you have a capital gain?
I would imagine, yes. I don't know exactly what that may be.
So, but it could be, you've owned them for a while, right?
I've been with this current advisor for about 12 years. Yeah,
so interesting. So, okay. Now I'm not liking either of these guys.
Okay.
That's terrible to say. I shouldn't say that. I think that the advisor 1, I'd have to look at the actual mutual funds that you own. I presume there's no load, meaning there's no commission on those funds. And I would look at maybe the cost of the funds. I have no problem making wholesale changes in IRA accounts because there's no tax liability to you, right? But I do have some trepidation about someone saying, I want to blow out of these equity funds without understanding what the tax liability would be. That to me is not a fabulous decision. So I like domestic exchange traded funds, but if these are very low cost mutual funds, then staying in them is not going to hurt you. Okay. If they're high cost funds, then maybe there is something else to do, but it would have to be a managed process to really manage the tax that could be due. Okay. So that is part of my question there. So now that leaves us with, do I stick with the current advisor? What about second opinion, dude? Because my sister's trust and she's got money and this, that, and the other thing. I'm going to give you a third option.
Okay.
Do you want a third opinion? Sometimes people shop around for the medical diagnosis they want.
Well, my profession is medical, and that's why I do equate it with that. So,
yeah, good. So now I'm going to tell you that I would love it if we could break the tie. And what I am going to do is I am going to send you the name and the number, and Mark's really going to do it right away, of somebody in the New York area who is going to weigh in on this and is going to be what we're going to call, I don't know if it's going to be a him or a her. It depends. It might be a her.
Okay.
But we're going to call, there's no woman involved in this. Maybe we'll give you the woman. We're going to call her the decider. Okay. And the decider is going to be a decider because this person is a fiduciary, and this is a person who has to put your best interests first. Right. And this is a person who I think will be able to parse the difference between the two. It may be that she says, you know what? The current advisor is fine.
Mm-hmm.
And stay where you are. The one thing I would like to say about the current advisor is this. The current advisor should consider your husband's assets. Whatever your husband is paying in a fee, it should be your fee. And I sure as heck hope that your husband is not paying 1.18% with several $1 million.
He's not.
So you should at least say to the advisor, I am married. I want the fee that my husband has.
Mm-hmm.
And ask that you are entitled to that. That's ridiculous that you don't have that. Okay.
Okay.
That's number one. Number two, I mean, you don't really have to pay exactly half of your expenses. I don't know why I feel very strongly about the fact that if someone has several $1 million and you have hundreds of thousands of dollars, why don't you say like, that doesn't make a ton of sense. Is he going to leave those several $1 million to his 2 kids, or do you have a prenup?
We have a prenup, and it'll be split 3 ways.
Okay. All right. I mean, I don't know. It just seems sort of silly. But if you want to keep doing that, that's fine. If it might be a fight you don't want to have. So let's forget about it.
No, I hear you. I hear you. I need to just add one more thing.
Yeah.
We have a lovely home that my husband actually built when we were married.
Oh, nice.
I am the owner of the home.
Oh, very good. How much is that house worth?
Oh, goodness. I would say our house, if we were to put it on the market, probably would be about $1 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
How old is he? Not that I want to shove him out of
We're the same age.
Same age? All right. Look at Mark's Mark's shaking his head because I'm sort of saying, like, when's this guy going to die? It's terrible. You see how I think? It's a very bad thing. I'm protecting you, Barbara. It's as if you've just become mine. All right. Hang on. Mark's going to pick up the phone. He's going to give you some information. And then I want you to stay in touch and let me know how it goes. Don't feel like you don't. First of all, no gun to your head. Nothing has to happen right this second. You're not in a bad situation.
No, not at all. I just want to do what's in my best interest and feel comfortable and be able to sleep at night.
Beautiful.
Knowing that.
I love a good night's sleep. Hang on. Mark's going to pick you up right now. I think that it's a very interesting case. Very interesting case. Because at second marriages, sounds like they've really done a good job of organizing the financial stuff. I do sort of feel like, maybe it's different that, every couple has its own arrangement, right? So sometimes people will say to me, we want to have everything split down the middle. And that's sort of weird because, I've been that person also where I've made more than a partner or I've made less than a partner. And sometimes you just feel like, it's all the same. I'll just split it down the middle. But obviously, if it's really unequal, you can't afford to do that. But I certainly, it seems okay, Seems okay. I think the difference of opinion is quite fascinating. Really interesting. So that's going to be fun to hear what the upshot is of that. You are listening to Jill on Money. Did you miss last week's show? The show before that? Hop onto our website, JillOnMoney.com. Click on the Listen tab, and you can listen to previous shows. JillOnMoney.com. Okay, when we return, more of your questions.
Follow Jill on Twitter and Instagram for more personal finance content. Just use the handle @JillOnMoney. Now, back to the show.
You're back with Jill on Money. Have you hopped on to the JillOnMoney.com website? Of course you hear me talking about it all the time. Why? Because it's the only thing I got to hawk. Wait, you know what else I got to hawk now? After having all these darned authors, I can now hawk my own book. Go to JillOnMoney.com. Click on the link that's called The Book, and you can pre-order The Dumb Things Smart People Do with Their Money. I might be able to save you a few shekels out there. So check it out. And if you've got a financial question and want to come on the air with us, send an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. That's what this person has, an extremely identifiable name. So I'm just going to say A sent me an email with the subject student loan relief. Hello. My husband and I have over $400,000 in student loans outstanding. What is the relief? I don't even know where to start. Okay. If these are federal loans, you're going to have to go to studentloan.gov, I believe it is. And you're going to try to see if you can come up with some sort of game plan. I don't know whether they're federal loans or private loans. It's just, oh God, it is so awful. I mean, it would be great if one of you worked in the public sector so you could get in on the loan forgiveness program. You can't even go bankrupt because school debt is not wiped out in a bankruptcy. I don't know how you accumulated $400,000 of debt. Are you doctors? I don't know. You're going to have to look for relief. It's just, we got to catch you earlier in the process before you somehow get that much money tied up. Dan wants to know about Medicare. What's better, F or G as a supplement? I don't know. It really is dependent on you. Medicare open enrollment is open now until December 7th. So time is ticking right now. Go to Medicare.gov. You got to compare plans, Dan. It really depends on you and what's going on in your life. The best way to control health care costs is obviously to choose your coverage carefully. The stat always blows my mind. Just 10% of people who are on Medicare voluntarily change their plans from year to year. So if you have, this is for everyone, not just for Dan. If you have a Medigap supplemental plan and you're in good health, shop around. You could save some money. Maybe you're going to switch to another company. Medicare Advantage, that's the managed care alternative to fee-for-service coverage. Make sure your doctors are in the network, understand the deductible and the out-of-pocket limits, and the prescription drug choices. Part D, that's the medication plan. If you don't request a change, your coverage will automatically be renewed. Medicare.gov, I think it's /find a plan. You can compare plans. You can put in how much, what kind of medications you use. Again, Medicare open enrollment is open now until December 7th. Now until December 7th. Get on it, Dan. And remember, everybody is different. So you got to run through this in your situation. Jonathan writes, he's just had an attempt to obtain credit cards in his name. Here is the insidious part. The fraudsters filed a hold and forward on my mail. Then they applied for credit cards. Fortunately, I already had a freeze on my credit, and my letter carrier, way to go USPS, saw me in the yard and he approached me regarding the hold and forward. I immediately met with the local postmaster. I resolved the hold and forward. The postmaster notified his inspector general up the food chain. In my held mail were 2 denied credit card applications. I contacted them both and 2 other companies whose rejections arrived the next day. I also called Equifax, who applied a fraud alert to my account. My concern is, could they open a bank account and write checks? If you have a credit freeze, which I think you said you had, yeah. If your credit is frozen, nobody can open credit in your name, including you. So don't worry about that. It's a great question, Jonathan. Thank you for sharing that with us. But boy, that's terrible. That's just terrible. Ed writes that his wife has cancer. She's been being treated at a local cancer treatment hospital. We have to go there 3 times a week for treatment. Besides transportation, we need an aide with her. Plus, she stays 12 hours a day with her. Between the aide and the Uber, it's something like $400 a day. We're retired and on a fixed income. We can't seem to get any help. Can you be of assistance? Ed. I think that you might want to check with the cancer center itself. They often will have some transportation services. They often will have opportunities that volunteers who drive. I would check with your local chapters of the American Cancer Society and also the hospital itself. I mean, it's horrible. So I don't really know the answer to this except to say you have to try to shop around a little bit and be your own advocate. It's a drag. I'm so sorry about your wife. Okay, let's end on a happy note this segment. Kathy writes that her daughter's 24 and she's on the family health insurance, but she's not a dependent. She's starting a new job, and if she stays on our plan, she'll get $92 a pay reimbursed. So I wondered, since we have a high deductible health plan and a health savings account, an HSA, could she open her own HSA? Some of the sites I read said she could. Yeah, she can. She can. She could even put the family max in, even if we already max it out. I don't know about that part. I'm not sure about that. I got to find that out. But I definitely think she should open an HSA, and I think that when she opens it, she can find out the limits. One way to do that is to just look at the various websites out there. But your final question, why didn't you think of this before? The answer is because people don't really think that much about HSAs and high deductible health plans. So I encourage anyone listening, if you have that combination and that ability, it is an amazing way to save. An HSA is basically saving pre-tax, and there's no use it or lose it. There's no limitations. You can carry it forward. It can be there for you as like a supplemental health savings account for when you get older and need more health care. And, look, right now, estimates are that the average person, the average couple retiring this year is going to consume half of their lifetime Social Security benefits on health care. So just consider that. All right. If you've got a financial question, we want to hear from you. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, she's all over the place. Go to JillOnMoney.com to find it all. Now back to the show with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back with Jill on Money. You know where I'm not? I'm not on Google Plus since they shut that down. I deleted my profile. I sent a note to Mark. I don't even know if you realized that we actually still had a profile on Google Plus. Yeah. So that's done. And I just deleted it. I don't know. There was still content there. Where is the content coming from? Oh, I think it gets aggregated from YouTube. I think that's how it came in. That's why. Yeah, you can go to YouTube. I have a channel, don't I, Mark? Is it called Jill on Money or is it called Jill Schlesinger? Why not Jill on Money? I'm just kidding. Oh, I see. Well, put it on under your Gmail account. So it's Jill on Money. Oh, don't worry. I'm just making you nuts. If you've got a financial question, we would love to hear from you. Our email address here is askjill@jillonmoney.com. And let's bust out through some of these emails. I wrote an article some time ago about the Equifax breach, and I think I titled it something like "What's Changed 1 Year After Equifax?" And someone wrote in, I love your columns. My wife and I are $480 poorer. I don't know if they're $480 poorer because they had to pay to freeze and unfreeze, but that whole freezing thing, that's done. You don't have to pay for it anymore. New law. So that's good. I'm sorry you're $480 poorer. But you can tell us why. Maybe some other time. Donna writes, hi, Jill. I love your podcast. I listen to it all the time. I couldn't get an email through to that site. Which site? I don't know. Anyway, I need some advice about real estate, how to handle the money from it. I'm 70 years old. I own two-family homes. I live in one of the apartments, and I've managed these properties myself since 1985. I know I can't do this forever, even though I'm in good health and able to do it. I'm trying to educate myself about REITs. A friend of mine sold her income property and invested in a company that manages dialysis centers. She says she's quite happy with the income, but she's not disclosed how much money she gets. I know I need a 1035 tax-deferred exchange before doing this. I'm wondering if you can enlighten me. So, Donna, Couple of different issues. When you have low cost basis income producing properties like yours, there's two different factors. One is you raise an issue that you can't do this forever. So you could just essentially hire a management company. That's one very easy thing to do. And that would eat into your income, but it's okay. Not the biggest problem in the world. The second thing is that if you're seeking to sell one of these properties and then avoid paying the tax that would be due on that property, you could basically do a 1035 exchange where it is a very specific process. You need to talk to somebody who does these, sometimes accountants, sometimes lawyers, but you have to have someone who has specific expertise, because what you're doing in that case is you are taking the tax liability that you would incur if you were to sell the property. You would take that tax liability and delay it. You'd then take the proceeds of the sale into a new property, and maybe, I don't know if you can do it into a REIT, so I'm really not sure about that. And I presume that the company that manages the dialysis centers is some sort of real estate play. And then when you die, whoever has the tax that's due, it's part of your estate, you might get a step up in cost basis or not, would have to deal with the tax at that time. So it's quite convoluted. It's not cheap. I would suggest that you talk to somebody that has some expertise, because it's unclear whether or not this really does work best for you. But if it does, that's a cool thing. For everyone else listening, these are not very easy transactions, and you have to handle them very carefully. Very carefully. Okay? Here's a note from Justin, who, let's see, I don't know if he is a CPA or an investment advisor, but he says, some of my clients are entering the required minimum distribution phase of their lives. They've inquired about qualified charitable contributions from IRA distributions. So that is the coolest thing, because when you have to take a required minimum distribution, which you have to do after you've turned 70 and a half from retirement accounts, unless you're still working and you have a 401k, but these are IRAs. If you instruct a IRA account management company, think Fidelity, T. Rowe Price, Vanguard. If you instruct them, hey, I want to do a QCD, I'm going to move the money directly to this charity, then you avoid having to pay the tax on your required minimum distribution. You don't get to take the charitable contribution, but you do get to take the income and push it over. Not actually, you can direct it. I shouldn't say take it. You're allowed to not take that required minimum distribution. So Justin's question is, the financial institution, it's making the check payable to the charity. Who receives the 1099? Is it the client or the charity? I believe that the client has to receive some documentation around the QCD so that the government is satisfied, and that the charity is going to receive a donation. I don't think they're going to get a 1099. I think the client does. Double check with the institution that is holding the accounts. They'll know that. I love the qualified charitable contribution, the QCD. Will be distribution, rather. Love that. We'll be talking more about that in the future. Okay, you are listening to Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to chat with you. Our email address, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back. You're back with Jill on Money. And before we wrap up the hour, we want to get to your emails. Remember, if you've got a financial question, a money question, maybe you've got a career decision to make. I just love those. I find those fascinating. Give us a holler. Just hop onto the website, jillonmoney.com. Click on the Contact Us button. If you want to kick it old school, just send an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. Either way, we'll do it. Okay. Here's a question from John. My wife and I are retired, and our advisor has moved away. We are with Schwab, and I don't care for anyone in that office. My old advisor charged me almost 2%. I'm worried about what to do more than the market itself. How do I pick someone I can trust? Why aren't you available? I always like your comments. I was in that business for a long time, mister, and it's grueling. It's hard, and I wanted to kick back and do the easy talking head job, although I make less money. But that said, it's so much fun. So here's what you should do. First of all, we're going to make sure that you hear this, and we want to make sure that you send us a note and let us know where you're from. We might be able to help you out. I think that if you are retired and you just are looking at investing your assets, there are tons of opportunities. You can go to an online advisor, Wealthfront, Betterment. Schwab has a personal service where they do asset allocation for you. But if you want real financial advice, some of these programs combine human beings with their online platform. But if you want to walk into someone's office or talk to someone dedicated on the phone, there are plenty of people who will do fee-only financial planning where they won't charge you a commission. They'll charge you a fee to produce a plan and manage your money. And those folks can be found at NAPFA, N-A-P as in Peter, F-A.org, the National Association of Personal Financial Advisors.org. I would check that out and shoot us a note and let us know where you are. Maybe we know somebody who can help you. Okay, thanks for writing, John. Excellent question. Thank you for listening to this first hour of the program. When we return, we are going to kick it into high gear and interview your questions. All of that ahead. It's Jill on Money. We'll be right back.
It's the weekend, and that can only mean one thing. You're listening to Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome back. It's hour number 2 of Jill on Money. We are speaking to you live from the Capital One Bank studios here in New York. Thanks so much for joining us. I know everyone's kind of getting ready. It's the weekend before Thanksgiving. Maybe this is a weekend when your kids are coming home from college, on break. Maybe this is a long weekend when you're going to talk to your middle school and high school kids about how the semester's going already. Maybe it's just time to talk to your kids about college. And I don't mean your college kids. I mean the other kids. That is why we have brought back our fabulous guest who's been on the program before, Beth Kobliner. She is an author, former journalist, turned expert on everything about how to talk to your kids about money. She's got a news section of her website, BethKobliner.com, and it's called We Need to Talk College. She has fantastic advice. She has great wisdom, and we are so happy to bring Beth back to the program. Here's our interview with Beth Kobliner. Tell us about We Need to Talk College.
You know, I've been on the road a lot this year promoting my book, and I realized the number one question parents are asking me is, how do we afford college? It's crazy. The debt loads are crazy. So at first I wanted to look at the research, and research shows college is a great investment. If you graduate from college, you're going to earn on average $1 million more than if you just graduate from high school. You'll have a net worth of 4 times more. So going to college does pay off, but you have to pick the right school and pay for it in the right way. And that's what this whole thing is. It's, you know, how to start the conversation, shop for the right school, figure out how much you're going to pay, and make a smart college choice.
So when should you start talking to your kids about college?
Right. Well, as early as possible. And
Like, wait, as early as possible. Like,
right.
If your kid is in kindergarten, you're going to start talking about it?
Actually, yes.
What?
In the way that you can say, you know, people who go to college are earning more money, people who go, oh, you want to be a teacher one day? Well, you have to go to college. Oh, you want to be an architect to build houses? You have to go to college. Just putting that in their mind. And also, we know from research that parents who tell their kids they're saving up money for college are more likely to go to college regardless of how much money they've actually saved.
Yes, we've saved 3 shekels. Good luck. You're going to community college.
Right. But at least they feel like there's the expectation that they have to go.
Okay. Now, what about when do you start having the conversation around, like, I guess, high school?
Right. No, actually, you want to start at the end of 8th grade.
End of 8th
middle
grade.
School.
Okay, so what happens? What am I going to say at the end of 8th grade?
Well, first of all, it's a series of talks. It's not just a one-off
Darn
thing.
it.
Right, I know. It's much easier to do one-off. So you could do basic things, talk about how grades start to count toward college in 9th grade. So start managing those expectations of your kid doing well so they'll get into a better school that maybe will give them more aid or more scholarships. And also the big thing is managing their expectations about what you can afford. You know, I know so many, I bet you do too, grown-ups who said, you know, I got into my dream school and then my parents told me that they can't afford it, like after the whole thing senior year. So it's important to manage those expectations. And like any, you know, tough conversation, you want to talk to your kid. Don't force it because they'll ignore you, but they'll start hearing it. They'll start hearing. And, you know, the basic thing is, you know, do you want $1 million? Because if you do, you have to go to college. So you can kind of start that when your kids are in 8th grade to begin. The other part is, and probably the harder part, is having a heart-to-heart conversation with your partner and deciding, first of all, how much you can afford and how much you're willing to pay. Because people are, you know, shocked, and it can be very tricky when one of you says, oh, let's, you know, blow our whole 401k savings on our kids' dream school. And the other's like, how about
not so much.
Right, not so much. How about a state school? And those are the conversations I think parents have to have before they talk to their kid.
So, Beth, in that research where you say, you know, on average over the course of your working life, you'll have an extra $1 million, a college degree is important.
Right.
How important is where you go? For example,
Right.
obviously, if you get into a really great elite school,
Yes.
first of all, chances are if you make less than $250,000 or $200,000, you're probably going to be able to get a lot of financial
or at
aid,
least
or
some
get
financial
a bunch
aid.
of it, right?
2/3 of people get financial aid.
But there's also a next tier
Right.
or few tiers
Right.
down where it's expensive, but it's not an elite school. So
Right.
they, A, don't have an endowment, and B, your kid's going to graduate, and like, who cares if you went to whatever school?
Right, right. I know exactly. And we used to call that back in the old days at Money Magazine the Chivas Regal effect.
Oh.
Yes, the idea that, you know, I don't know if you remember from the 90s, Chivas Regal was like fancy bottle, fancy name, but it kind of was like all the same basically. And the idea that some schools that are kind of the second tier, third tier schools that are trying to seem as great as the really top private schools are charging as much as the top private schools to sort of put themselves in the same category, on the same list. But actually, that's why it's so important for parents to talk and figure out what they can afford and what's that tipping point, you know. And also, I mean, there's something called a net price calculator, just nuts and bolts. A few schools, you know, you go on a few schools' net price calculators, and that will help you estimate what your family will be expected to pay. By doing that, you'll get a rough sense, you know, if a school costs, you know, $60,000, how much aid will you likely get, roughly? It could be a few $1,000s off. And then, is it worth it for you? And I feel like that's really where the hard conversations need to happen up front and sooner.
How about some of the programs like we both went to Brown. We didn't know each other in college, but we became fast friends after.
I think I knew you. You were cooler than I was.
Stop it. I so wasn't. When you have a program like Brown has a medical program.
Right.
And let's say that your kid really does know. Like, I swear I know.
Right.
Okay. Are you a fan of those kinds of programs?
Like
or do
the
you
7-year
think,
program.
7 and 8 year programs?
Right.
Or do you think that that's a little bit too soon to make the choice? And that's a big commitment.
It's a big commitment. I think often with those, probably it's particularly at Brown, I don't know the rules, but probably there's a escape hatch if you need it. But I think that, you know, a lot of times parents say, look, go to the local college for undergrad, figure out what you love, and then we'll help you maybe pay for grad school. Or, you know, my choice was, I don't know what your choice was. My choice was you get into, Brown or Yale, or you go to Queens College, which was the local,
That was. I love that those are like your big three.
Yeah, those are my big three because my parents are like, Queens College is basically free. It's an amazing school. But if you get into Brown or Yale, we'll like stretch for it. So I didn't get into Yale, but I got into Brown.
But your kids did.
My kids did, yeah. And I walk around Yale to all their friends. I didn't get in. And they're like, we don't, But I feel that Brown, for me, I left with $10,000 in student loans, which was a big deal at that time, it's actually roughly equivalent when you adjust for inflation to the $20,000 median debt that kids are graduating with today. And, graduating with $20,000, even $30,000 in federal student loans is a big number, but it's manageable. It's manageable. And one great rule of thumb is and Mark Kantrowitz, a college expert, told me this. You want to basically shoot for the amount of debt. Don't have any more debt than your first year income. So if you think your job right out of school will be $30,000, don't take on more than $30,000.
We will get back to talking about college in just a minute. I know it's hard to do, but hey, it's worth it. It's a lot of money. If you've got a financial question, it can be about college. It could be about your own student loans. It could be about anything. Give us a holler. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. We'll be right back.
Follow Jill on Twitter and Instagram for more personal finance content. Just use the handle @JillOnMoney. Now, back to the show.
You're back with Jill on Money. How's my Instagram working, Mark? It's looking better with more personal pictures. Did you put up that funny picture that I had from the Charles Schultz exhibit? That was a good one, right? Go to my Instagram account, which is Jill on Money, which I can't log into because Mark has blocked me, I think, from getting into my own account. I can't even get in. Don't even know how to look at it. He sends me things when I need, on a need-to-know basis. Thank God for Mark. And thank God for our guest, Beth Kobliner. She is so terrific. She's got a great, rich website called BethKobliner.com. So much terrific content, and she's just added a new section, and it's around college. And specifically, the name of this section, which I love, is called We Need to Talk College. And why is this so important? And why is it so important that you start early? Because too many people are having no conversation around college and finding themselves either saddling their kids with tons of debt or making poor choices that really change the outcome of their own retirement and their own financial lives. And it can be devastating and it can be dangerous. I mean, it's one thing to say, my kid's got $35,000 in college loans. Yes, that stinks. Kid's going to pay that back. But for some of the parents who are taking these plus loans and they've got $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 in debt at a time when they're trying to really look forward to their own retirement, it can be really hard. So here's more of our interview with Beth Kobliner.
I think that people shouldn't be terrified of federal student loans. It starts getting crazy when you're looking at private student loans.
Right, because they'll just give you money,
right,
whatever you need. And
exactly.
So you say, I'm going to blankety blank university in upstate New York, and you go there, and then all of a sudden you come out and you got $100,000 in debt.
Exactly. That, I 100% agree with you. And I think that is the problem. And I think Parent Plus loans can really be devastating on a family, taking on, we just last year, a federal report came out. We've just passed the point at which parent debt for paying for college is higher on average than student debt. So parents are actually borrowing $32,000 for the 4 years of college.
Wow.
Yeah. Parent Plus loan, which is not even the worst of them. That's, you can borrow a lot, but the interest rate is decent.
6, 7 now?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But what's really horrible are these private loans that parents could co-sign for their kids or parents take out themselves. And they should avoid that, in my opinion, basically at all costs.
Right, no co-signing.
Right.
Remember that study which showed like the fastest growing segment was over the age of 60 for student loans?
Yes.
That freaked me out.
It's crazy.
Because that's parents and grandparents.
Right. And that's what we're talking about here. And I think there's a whole psychology. There's a guilt on the part of parents. Like, I want my kids to have maybe what I didn't have, or maybe what I did have. I want to make sure my kids get to go to private school. And private, as you point out, it's like you wouldn't just buy the most expensive suit if you walked into a store just because it's the most expensive suit. You'd want to shop around and see what matters to you.
Right.
And the hard part about college, the thing that makes me crazy is if you walk into a store, at least you know what the suit will cost you. You buy a TV, a car, With college, people are flying blind. They have to fill out the application, fill out that FAFSA form, the financial aid form, fill it out. Because first of all, if you make $150,000 you might get some aid, and it's important, or your kids might be able to take out some federal student loans. That's another thing. I know a lot of parents who say, I don't want my kids to be saddled with any debt. Research shows that kids who kick into college costs, those kids have slightly higher GPAs than kids who don't pay anything at all.
Oh, I love that. You got so many highlighted red things. You live and breathe it. It's in your DNA. You don't need your notes.
I know. This is very personal to me because I found the, spreadsheet that my dad did. Now, this is on graph paper spreadsheet where I was applying to colleges, and he wrote down the cost of everything and what we'd have to pay. And I had to earn $2,000 a year in order to go to Brown.
How did you do that?
Working in the summers, working in the Ratty, which is the cafeteria.
Also short for the Sharp Refectory or the Rat Factory. You worked in the Ratty? That's the worst on-campus job ever.
I loved it. No, I sort of signed people in. I swiped cards, so I knew everyone's name.
Oh, okay.
That was fun. And then I worked in BSA, Brown Student Services, and
my friend checked IDs at the athletic center at night, and nobody was going in there because it wasn't like there was a fancy gym or anything at that time.
And it's Brown.
Not
so many athletes.
Thanks a lot as the former
Except
athlete.
For you.
Oh, yeah, whatever. But she said it was the best job because no one went into the athletic center at night. She just did her homework. She's like, they pay me to do my homework.
Right. I had a bunch of jobs. I did catering there. I actually worked even in a risk management office somewhere. It was social and fun to work. Kids find that.
And most kids are working during college, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I think, and we know not only is, chipping into college helpful to kids for their grades, but kids who work in college, who work fewer than 20 hours a week and have an on-campus job, those kids also do better on average than kids who don't work in college.
Because I always feel bad. My friend teaches actually at Queens College, and he was telling me that it's really hard that a lot of kids, just to pay for certain expenses, they are basically working full time and going to school at the same time, which is really hard.
It's so hard. And that's where places like Queens College, the end of my story was I got into Brown. I took on some debt. It was great for me because I met people like you. I do remember meeting you in college. It's okay. It's okay, Jill. But I also think that I would have gotten just as good an education or an excellent education at Queens College because the professors are amazing. And that was, a trade-off my parents were willing to make and really worked and figured out how they can do that without putting themselves into debt. But again, I think in terms of education value, it's really important for parents to have these conversations with themselves and then with their kids.
And by the way, if you go to Beth's website, and we'll link to it, bethkobliner.com, you can watch videos where Beth explains. So cute you look in this. I can't even stand it.
It's
adorable.
It's a flattering light.
It's lovely. Then you can read about it because some people are visual learners, and you have stuff for kids also, which is so great. So there are and
sort of animations.
Who did that? Is that you shopping with your page boy haircut?
Yeah.
Is that an old haircut from 1970 something?
It's so interesting because I felt like this topic can be overwhelming and terrifying for people. And I'm like, well, how do we tell stories? So I met one family whose dad, he was an immigrant from Mexico, and the daughter was the first one in her family to go to college. And how did she navigate the process? Or a girl who decided, you know what, I'm from Florida, but I got to get out of here. I want to be in a different place, and how she navigated it. And her mom had been saving in a Florida plan. So how did they figure that out? And those kind of real stories are interesting, but also important to realize it's an emotional thing. All these conversations are emotional, but first and foremost, as you and I both know, pretty much everything's economic and financial in the end. It's having that conversation, and that's why I called it We Need to Talk College, because I've been reaching out and I've been talking to so many different communities and organizations that feel, this is a priority. How do we educate parents to make smart decisions? The other thing I just wanted to say is, Alan Kruger of Princeton did a great study that found that he looked at incomes of kids who go to top prestigious schools. Now, these are the really prestigious ones versus not.
Say Yale versus Brown.
Pretty much. No, Yale, versus not a prestigious, like right. Queens College, in the sense that although Queens College, again, is an amazing institution, and he found that middle upper income kids who went to a top Ivy League school versus a non-Ivy League school, those kids didn't really earn more. Because like you said, their parents have connections and they didn't really benefit from those connections. It's the lower income kids that did benefit from going to those top name schools.
I love this so much. I love all of the work you do. If I go to BethKobliner.com, am I just going to get taken to this?
Go to BethKobliner.com and you'll get right away to We Need to Talk College.
And we will make a beautiful link. And Mark, let's put We Need to Talk College on our resource tab on the front door of Jill on Money so we have that. Thank you so much, Beth. Her website, it's Beth Kobliner with a K, Kobliner.com. The subsection, We Need to Talk College. If you need to talk college or anything else on your financial mind, give us a holler. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
If you've missed any part of the show or want to check out a past show, go to jillonmoney.com for more great personal finance content.
You are back with Jill on Money. Hey, you can always go to the website anytime, day or night. You can listen to past shows. You can check out our sister podcast, Better Off. And you can also sign up for our free weekly newsletter. Oh, how are we doing with those acknowledgments with people who we had to send out this security thing? I don't do anything with this newsletter except send out content. Are we getting some back? At least some. Please, if you've already signed up for the newsletter, just answer the question when they ask you for, please sign off on this thing. We're not selling or doing or anything. We're not monetizing you. You could help monetize me by buying my book. The least you can do. You've been listening to this content forever. Been answering your questions. Come on. Help a sister out. I'm totally kidding. But buy the book because it's fun. You can pre-order it. The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money. Some of you are featured in it, although names have been changed to protect the innocent. Okay. Here's a question coming from somebody who signs the email. I love this. An overwhelmed investor. Okay. Dear Overwhelmed. No. Okay. Jill, I'm a longtime fan and listener of your content. Now I need to ask some questions for myself. I am 60 years old, retired as a public school teacher. I'm divorced. I've got 2 children who are now financially independent adults living in Kentucky. I hope you're listening to us on WHAS in Louisville. I think that's how you say it. Okay, so let's get back to our very confused and overwhelmed investor. All right, so unfortunately, my mother died this past fall. That stinks. I'm trying to organize my inheritance and my current investment and savings accounts. Everything's spread out. I'm a little overwhelmed by all of this. I'm interested in consolidating my investments and my inheritance to form a sound financial plan heading forward. My son is helping me with organizing all of this. He was the one who first introduced me to you and your podcast. Woo! I was previously with a non-fiduciary advisor, and I've recently started rolling over some of my retirement and taxable investments over to Betterment. Betterment's the sponsor of my podcast, so that's the plug there. That's why maybe they know about that. Anyway, I want to simplify and lower my fees. I still have a variable annuity with a previous broker. I'm unsure if I should reallocate the funds or not. This is complicated. I'm going to try to lay it out for you. Okay, so let's see what we got. We got a house. It's $160,000. It's paid off. I have teachers' retirement income plus part-time work, which is about $2,800 a month. Savings. I've got, let's see, I'm just going to round this. Let's call it $21,000 in savings. And then another $13,000 at a credit union. So that's good. Fantastic. That's $34,000. Okay. In retirement, there's about $245,000 in a traditional IRA. There is $2,600 in a Roth. There is an old variable annuity, two of them. One is called a protective life variable annuity. It's worth about $165,000. And there is there is a, not an annuity, a second insurance product. It's a life insurance policy. I wonder if that policy is a whole life or whether it's term. We'll have to find out about that. But I'm going to assume it's a whole life insurance policy. For the inheritance, there's $81,000 in the bank. There's then a investment account with $23,000 in cash. There's $21,000 in stocks and ETFs. There's bonds worth about $5,000. There's mutual funds that are $132,000. I don't know what this is. There's something else. Looks like maybe it's a mutual fund. I don't know. I'm not sure what that is. Fixed rate cap security. You think that's a mutual fund? I'm not sure what that is. Let's call it $135,000. There's life insurance proceeds, a life insurance policy that would just get added to the stocks. Okay, here's your help. You ready? Number one, all the money that you are receiving is an inheritance. The first thing that I would do is I would look at what's retirement and what's non-retirement. And I'm presuming that most of the money is in in non-retirement, but I'm not sure. But what you want to do is divide it out, and any of the cash that's from the bank and cash in the brokerage account, what I would do is this. From the bank, I might just throw that money that you've gotten from the estate and put it in your own credit union account, right? So it'll add a little bit of, you have a little cushion for you. You'll have about $125,000 that's in the bank. Keep it there for now. Then take the stock and the mutual funds and any non-qualified money and direct it into a new brokerage account, okay? And do it right at Betterment. It's easy. You got the account open now. Into that account, you can put the $48,000 of your proceeds from the life insurance. So, again, what you're going to try to do is keep everything in a non-retirement account at Betterment that's coming from the estate. In terms of the annuities, the annuity, I should say, I would look and see whether you have passed the period where there's a surrender charge due. If you are past that period, you may want to roll over that annuity into either your traditional IRA at Betterment, or if it's a non-qualified annuity, you just throw it into the brokerage account. And I don't know whether you need a whole life policy or not. I might get rid of it if you had it. But otherwise, it sounds like you're in good shape. And if you need some follow-up, let me know. Again, non-retirement assets go into a new account at Betterment, non-retirement. Retirement assets go into the IRA. And the old variable annuity and the insurance products, you need to do a little homework. All right? Thanks so much for letting us know how we could help you out. I hope you're less confused right now. If you are listening and have questions, just send us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. We'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
Can I ever help you? What's the dude's name who does the voiceover? Nick Young. I love this guy's voice. And I love our music, which, in case you were ever wondering, do I say this on the radio show? I don't think I say it, mostly on the podcast. Our music is composed by Joel Goodman, who's an award-winning composer. Like, serious. The guy's does amazing documentary films. But listen, I'm sort of family. I met him through Michael Goodman, who you've heard on our show before. He's a CFP. So I basically squeezed Joel to do some music for us. I paid for it. It's just he gave me a good rate. So that's our award-winning music by Joel Goodman. I'm going to add that to make sure I say that on the show because he does such great work and he's so nice to do that for us. If you've got a financial question, you don't want to just talk about our music, then you should give us a call. Nah, don't give us a call. Why don't you drop us an email? Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Ben writes that he's moving from Seattle to California at the end of the month, and he says, I'm wondering if I should have an accountant or a CFP look at my situation to see if there's anything I should do in preparation because of California's tax system. And he, in parentheses, he writes, harvest long-term gains or anything? If you have time to chat, let me know. Well, I'm going to answer this. I'm chatting with you right now. And thanks for loving the show, because we love you. So, Washington State, no state income tax. We know that. There may be a reason for you to do something different. What I would try to do is, considering that there's no state income tax, if you have any, I don't know if you have state, I have to look this up, Mark, if Washington State has a capital gains tax. Check this out. I think this is true. A statutory deduction is provided for amounts that the state is prohibited from taxing under federal law. Capital gains tax on individuals. Okay. According to ofm.wa.gov, Ben, it looks like capital gains, 7.9% capital gains tax on individuals. The tax is equal to 7.9% multiplied by a person's Washington capital gains for each taxable year. Exemption, $25,000 or $50,000 for individuals. There's a lot of exemptions. So, you know what I would do? I think that it is incredibly important for anybody who's contemplating a move from one state to another to understand what the new tax structure will be. So, you know what, Ben? I think it is a good idea for you to talk to either a CPA or a CFP and get a sense of what you might want to do before the end of the calendar year. This, to me, is prudent. It is also maybe a way to, I hope, keep your tax situation or minimize the tax due on anything where you have a big fat gain. So good luck. Let us know how that goes. Here's one from Vance. I enjoy your podcast. Informative. Love your guest interviews and entertaining. I'm interested in a career as a financial advisor specializing in 401ks for small businesses. Not particularly interested in working with households to start. I have an opportunity to purchase a book of a 401k business from a friend that's been in the business for 20 plus years. I'd be associated with his firm as independent. That would afford me the opportunity to slowly transition to full-time as an FA, potentially work and expand the book of business as a side hustle to my full-time job for a period of time. The initial goal would be to get $100 million in assets under management, and I'd be working towards a CFP. I'm 49. I currently make $150,000. I had a Series 7. It expired. Let's see. He's got payroll, HR. I'm planning on starting with a Series 65. What are your thoughts on someone like me getting back into the business? Am I crazy? I think it's a great idea. Look, I think the 401k space is tough because it is, and I think I said the 401k is a crappy business because it's really expensive to do the paperwork, the management, the back office stuff. But if you're doing it for a small business and your friend already has the book of business, then I think that's really great. I think that smaller companies really need help. They may not need 401ks specifically. They sure do need the ability to put in any kind of retirement plan that makes sense. I would also, if I were you, talk to the folks who sponsor our podcast, Betterment. They're trying to get more small businesses involved in their online platform. I would talk to those folks because maybe they could make it a lot easier for you, and especially when it comes to back-end paperwork, et cetera. I think it's a great idea. I love that it's a side hustle. I love that you have HR and payroll experience. Those are two big issues that seem to drive people a bit wacky when it comes to the plan development. And if you feel comfortable about your friend's track record, that to me is the big part. If you can do that, sounds like a really good plan. I hope you do everything that you need to do before then. Do your due diligence, but it sounds like a cool idea to me. Thanks for writing, and good luck. Okay, if you've got a financial question, we want to help you out, but only if you send us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. During the break, hop onto our website, JillOnMoney.com. You can contact us right from the website. You can also pre-order my book, The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money. You know, I got the ways to avoid those dumb things, too. Check it out, Jill on Money. Click on the book. We'll be right back. You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we would love to hear from you. Our email address is askjill at jillonmoney.com. And before we wrap up the end of the show, here's a question from Joe, who is retired military, and he says he receives a military retiree pension. He gets a 1099 for it. He pays state and federal taxes on it. But is this pension used to calculate my total modified adjusted gross income on my IRA deduction worksheet? I'm trying to read through IRS publication 590, which, of course, is scintillating. I don't blame you. That's just fabulous. It says retiree pensions are not included in figuring it out. I don't think they are. It's passive income. So, no, when you get 1099 income, it would be as if you got 1099 income for being an investor, for, you know, it's passive income. And I don't believe you could, you figure that in your modified adjusted gross income. However, let me give you a good way to try to solve this problem. What I would do is I would talk to the custodian of your IRA account and ask, can you help me out? Sometimes the place that holds your account is really the best place for you to kind of get the sign off on something. And of course, you can check with a CPA, but I don't think so. I think you are correct. And in that case, I think it's important for you would err on the side of being careful, right? I think that's it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And if I'm wrong, let me know, and that way we can make sure to correct that. Hey, you know, I don't know everything. When I make a mistake, you guys got to, you know, keep me honest. Okay? All right. You are listening to Jill on Money. It has been a fantastic show. And if you've got a question during the week, maybe something going on, why don't you give us a shout? Just holler out. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Send us lots of details. And also during the week, don't forget, we populate our website with lots of great content. You can read it, you can listen to it, you can watch it, you can even pre-order the new book, The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money. Go to JillOnMoney.com and we'll see you next week.